Hello and welcome everyone to round 10 of the PSGL F4 Championship here in season 27. We are here at the circuit. I actually forgot the circuit name, but we are here in Mexico definitely for what will be the third to last round this season. And I am back. I'm very happy to be back here for round 10, and I am joined by Jake. Hello, welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody, and yeah, welcome to what's a critical race in a championship. I'm glad Felix is back alongside me. Gives my voice a little bit of a break. Although I did have cover for the first race, although I was on my own for the second one. But yeah, very happy to be here. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez.
Yeah,
And it
that
should
I
be.
wasn't sure what it's called again, and I sometimes just get it mixed up with Brazil. I don't know why, but yeah. But let's talk about Mexico a little bit. In real life, obviously, a very special race because the setups in real life are a lot different from what you think they are. Because I think it's of the low air pressure. Is that the thing? I think that
There's a
was
lot
it,
of
right?
altitude changes. I know that,
Yeah,
and
and
it's above sea level, I think.
yeah, that like in real life they run a lot higher wings than you'd expect them to do. But in the game, I think it's just a fact of just yeah, normal wings there, and we've got two very long straights with two DRS zones on them. We've got another third DRS zone, which is not really useful for overtaking right before the stadium section, which is pretty cool. It's a baseball stadium which the F1 cars enter, and the atmosphere in that stadium in real life is amazing. And yeah, those first two long DRS zones have only got one detection point, so in case you get overtaken on the first straight, you basically have no chance for coming back at the driver because they still got the DRS because of the one single detection point, which Dan is about to cross here. That is the detection point for the DRS on the long main straight and the straight after that. And yeah, Jake, another thing I want to talk about is track limits today, and I think you can tell us the most about that after the race yesterday.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those where I think penalties are going to play a key part in the result of a race. It certainly did yesterday, and certain drivers managed to get away. I think even most drivers would at least picked up 3 seconds, maybe 6 seconds. I'm not quite sure how Dan didn't have his lap time validated there, but there we go. Weird interpretation of track limits and code masters. But yeah, nevertheless, I think most drivers will pick up the odd penalty or two. It's just a question of how many you get. And as we saw in F7 yesterday, a certain driver on the podium picked up 12 seconds worth of penalties, which did their race no good at all. I'm not going to specify any names, of course. But
Must be a talented guy if he still got on the podium, to be fair.
I've heard mixed opinions.
But I just, especially, I want to point out turns 2 and 3, because the track limits are very weird around there, because you can slightly cut the inside, but there's like that one certain point where it's not allowed. You can cut it, but you need to get the perfect angle on it to actually be allowed to cut it. But it makes you a lot quicker if you hit that exact point, if you hit that exact line, it makes you a lot quicker than just going for the normal curb. As Simon takes provisional pole with a 1:13.2 as the first lap time. Max only a tenth behind that. But yeah, that turns 2 and 3 could be the corners where we see the most penalties, especially also because of the curb on the outside of turn 3, where you really want to use all of the track width, and yeah, it's very easy to slightly go wide there as well as Fairham goes into P2.
Yeah, good early effort there from Feynman. And all very close. Obviously, this isn't the longest track on the calendar, so expect lap times to be very close. And just looking at the moment, Max in 4th place. Kind of come out of nowhere in recent times, but he has won the last 3 races here in F4. So definitely one to keep an eye on here. And he's put himself out of nowhere, really, with an outside chance of a title as Ghost makes it a Mercedes 1-2 at the top.
Yeah, that looked pretty good in the last sector there. He really nailed that one. And I've noticed he took the hairpin in the Autodrome in 2nd gear. Do you think that's the quickest method to go around there? Because I know that a lot of people are using first through there.
Well, we often say a lower gear can often help with traction on the exit, but maybe he's just maybe he wants to carry a little bit more momentum through the corner. I'm not too sure. It is a strange one because usually most people would prioritise the exit out of the hairpin to sort of the entry and through the hairpin itself. But oh well, who am I to argue if it puts him on provisional pole position?
Okay, as we can see, Simon also used second there. And down to second on the last one as well, but he dives into the pit lane, so we can't really take that for granted. But if we go on board with Brad here, he hasn't set a lap time so far. In terms of strategy, we saw a very special call yesterday, which got a certain driver into P2, as he's done a soft-medium strategy around here, which was incredibly impressive, without a single penalty as well. But I think the normal strategy should be the soft-medium-soft. Don't you agree?
I would say so, yeah. I was a little bit surprised yesterday that nobody outside the top 10 went medium-hard, because I thought that might have been a potential strategy call, because certainly from what I know anyway, the hard tire's not that much slower than a medium around here. But he made a soft to medium work, and fair play to him, but he must have been nursing his tyres quite chronically towards the end, and I don't see many people doing the same here. But of course with a two-stopper, it gives you a lot of sort of potential wiggle room, if you like, to do undercuts. So I reckon that could be a key part of this race today.
Yeah, strategy is definitely a factor. That undercut is very, very powerful around here as well. I've noticed that from yesterday, and the softs are quite a lot quicker than the mediums, actually. Like you mentioned, the mediums and the hards actually don't have that big of a difference, but the softs are incredibly quick, but they wear out very, very quickly as well. So that's the thing you got to consider. You have to find a balance to make the most of them in terms of pace, but also keeping them alive as long as you can. Sorry. So that's a tricky thing to do around here as well, as we're on board with McCrew, who looks to be pretty quick around here. At least the lines look pretty good around here so far. And yes, he goes on to provisional pole. And gotta say, that looked pretty clean throughout the entirety of that lap.
Yeah, and quickly, speaking about the championship very quickly, it can actually be wrapped up tonight, but the odds of it are incredibly slim. So I only mentioned it this once, and then obviously if the opportunity comes up in the race, but it could happen. But essentially Ryan's got to win and hope that both Max and Luke have really disaster races, essentially. So it's unlikely it'll go to it'll be sealed tonight, but it's important for Luke and Max because they've got a 20-point deficit to Ryan at the moment, and they really need to start clawing that back now.
Yeah, Ryan needs some weak results here and there maybe to actually give the others a chance of throwing that championship away with only 3 rounds left in this season. He's looking pretty comfortable up there, but nothing's done yet, nothing's decided yet. So we've seen many big leads in F1 history.
We're about to see a 1:12 come in. Yep,
yeah,
Feynman.
Quite a lot quicker actually, nearly 0.2 of a second. So that's a good second lap there from him. Let's go on board with Ryan here as he comes through the first 3 corners to then accelerate onto the second long straight and the second best overtaking opportunity apart from turn 1, as he's slightly down on his time, a bit more than half a tenth, and he actually stays in third through here, which is interesting. So maybe that's why I'm just a lot slower than these guys, because these guys just manage to get the best out of the car, or at least a lot more than I do, and that's why we're here in F4 and not in F7. As that looks pretty nice from Ryan here through the middle sector, through the S section here. That looked pretty good. Yeah, 2.5 tenths improvement on his previous best, and let's see if he can gain a bit more through this stadium section here as he slightly loses the rear end. But coming into the last corner, maybe he can get that extra little bit of time out there, and maybe he can climb up to provisional pole. Not quite. A bit more than a tenth behind Thyman, but I think he lost a bit of time in that last sector, and I think in that stadium there is a bit time left to find for him, and that first sector was slightly slower than on his first attempt as well, but that second sector looked pretty good for him. So if he can just replicate the second sector again and if he can slightly improve in the first and third where he lost some time, he might be able to challenge for pole.
Yeah, there's definitely a few extra attempts in there for Ryan if he can hook up the perfect lap. So it's really close between those top two at the moment. In fact, it's close pretty much throughout the field. You're looking at the moment, just 6 tenths separates the top 11 drivers. And we've not seen a few drivers do a lap yet, including Luke, who I suspect will be able to go quite quickly. In fact, he's on a lap right now as Furhan pops up to second. And I tell you what, he was very quick last week. He seems to have found something in recent weeks, a bit like Max in a way, although not quite to that same extent. And he's one to keep an eye on, whereas before he was sort of struggling towards the outside the points.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy to predict who's going to be on top at the end of this race, but I gotta say Feynman looks pretty quick so far, and I could see him winning this race, but like I said, nothing's guaranteed, as we can see now for Tarry off in the background. And who was that? I think that was Luke. Yes, into the second row he goes. And let's see what Kryptonite can do out of the last corner. Slightly loses the rear end, comes across the line, can still improve by more than 1.5 tenths and goes up into P7.
I'd keep an eye on Ghost. He's on a very nice lap indeed. And he goes quickest on a 12.1, 12.8. It is super close at the front, and one little mistake here and there could potentially cost you like 4 positions here. That's a great lap from Ghost. But I reckon it could get beaten once again just with how close it is. So he may need to find a bit more if he wants to keep that pole position.
Yeah, I love how close this grid is, and we still got Max out on a lap who's just started it. Let's see what he did in the first sector there. He's currently down in 10th, but I expect him to be a lot higher than that. He's 9 tenths down on his previous best, so he needs to find a bit more time if he wants to improve on his position in the second and third sector. That looked pretty tidy through that awkward hairpin here. It's more like a double right-hander with a double.
Cohen goes quickest.
Oh, wow.
Again, it's such tight margins, just 34 thousandths quicker than Ghost, but now he jumps to the top of the pile.
Beautiful
and all of a sudden,
beautiful run from Max, and I tell you what, look at that, 4 tenths improvement in the second sector. Sorry to interrupt you, but Max is on an absolute banger of a lap, and he could challenge Tripoli if he nails that last sector. Could have used a bit more on the entry on the outside there, but he comes across the line. Can he challenge Tripoli for now? Not quite. Improvement by 4 tenths of a second, and I think there's a bit more time left to find in the last sector for him.
This is just incredibly close, and McCrew, who we were talking about going on to the front row about 2 minutes ago, is now in 8th place. It is absolutely incredible. We've got more drivers out there pushing to find that extra bit of time. I'm currently looking at Feynman, who's just coming up to the end of the second sector, and he's a temp up on his previous best, so he could be about to take pole position back again.
Yeah, it's unpredictable right now what's about to happen here for pole position. I've got many drivers in my head who could take it today as it stands right now, because we've got many quick guys here today, and yes, that's a 2/10 gap to second, and that's quite a lap here from Feynman. 12.5, that's very impressive. And what was the pole time for F7 yesterday? 13 flat?
I believe so, yeah. I believe it was a 13 flat. It was from Bryn, I remember, yeah. So I mean, that's not bad, really. I'd still put you in the top 10 of this grid.
Yeah, but just still look how close it is.
Jan goes up to 5th as well.
Not Max is not on the lap. What about Ryan? He is coming through the second sector. Ah, yeah, that's a cut. And he's going to be annoyed with that because he is, yeah, on a slightly quicker lap, a bit more than half a tenth up on his time, so that could have easily gained him 2 spots. Like, that's the thing about this grid, just half a tenth could gain you maybe 2 to maybe even 3 spots, and that's why you just need to get the maximum out of the car, nail every single corner, because it's just so close.
Well, I mean, if Luke, for instance, were to gain just 1/10 of a second, he'd go from 8th place to 4th. There's 5 drivers at the moment in the 1:12.9 region, so that really does demonstrate how close it is. And I tell you what, about 2 tenths that Feynman found, that is a huge amount of time in the context of this session.
Let's look at Vapornude. He still hasn't set a lap. I'm not sure if he's invalidated most of his laps or if he's just decided not to set one. As it says he's purple, I'm not sure if that's right, but he currently just entered the second sector here. Look nice and tidy, slightly slippery on the rear end there, and we can get used to that McLaren livery once again after they've released their 2021 livery, which is basically exactly the same, so we'll have to get used to that for next year's game as well. And I can't tell you if he's about to set a really good lap or not, because I actually don't know what the quickest laps in each
can now because he's invalidated.
Oh yeah, didn't even notice.
I think he was probably going to do a low 13. Yeah, he did a 13.1 across the line, which would have put him into 10th, but he's invalidated once again. And I tell you what, with the timing of that lap time, I'm not sure he's going to have time to go back into the pits and put on another set of tyres, so he might not be able to do a lap in this session.
Yeah, probably not actually.
So Vapornude starting from the back, and unless the other McLaren can improve, it's kind of a disastrous qualifying session for the McLaren duo, because they're currently 14th and 15th.
And maybe Simply can get another lap in and move up the order just that little bit, but McCrew is about to start his final lap.
Yeah, just watching Luke at the moment. He's just come around the first sector. He is 3 thousandths up on his previous best, so he's improving, but it's minimal at the moment. But this middle sector might give us a better idea of how Luke's lap's shaping up.
Slightly loose on the rear end, but that's maybe what you need for the turn in around here, and that's invalid, and that's probably his quali over.
And that's crucial in the context of a championship, because he's currently behind Ryan, and Ryan's got the opportunity to improve further should he hook up his lap. McCrew's not had a great first sector, it has to be said, a 10th down on his previous best.
Let's see if he can maybe improve a bit more through the second sector, or gain that time back at least. Yeah, we've got a slow car. I think that is Luke then.
It's Cohen actually. Cohen's just invalidated, as has Ghost, so neither Cohen or Ghost will improve.
Let's see if McCrew improves. Yeah, he's slightly up in his time, more than half a tenth, but if he just finds that little bit of extra time through the last sector here, he might be able to gain one or two spots, and that was probably what cost him a few hundredths of a second, and that might matter in the end. But he goes on to set a 13 flat, which is not quite half a tenth quicker. He probably could have beaten Luke here. But let's see who else is on a lap. Ryan has invalidated, so Ryan is not going to challenge for pole today. So has Ghosts, actually.
Yeah, Simply's not improved either, so he's not improving. So a lot of drivers struggling. A lot of drivers struggling on this final lap, and Feynman hasn't even come back out again, so maybe he ran out of time. But the pole position lap's there to be got at. If anyone can find it, maybe it'll be Max.
Yeah, Jan doesn't look too tidy through the lap so far. Let's go on board with Max actually, and that didn't look too bad. Let's see. He probably is the only one right now on track who could actually still challenge a pole position, so the pressure is on him. Slight improvement in the first sector, that might gain him a few spots in the end. I remember that he didn't have the best run through the third sector, so that's where he can find the most time probably. And let's see how he takes the second sector. That looked alright, but not as tidy as it looked before, I think. But that looked quite good through the second part of the SS. Let's see if he's still up on his time or if he's slightly down. He lost 4 thousandths there, but now entering the third sector, coming into the stadium. Let's see if he can actually improve a bit more as he locks up and goes slightly wide. And I think that's it. That's his chance for pole position completely gone then. And maybe can still gain 1 or 2 spots. No, we can't. Yeah, that lock up on the inside front definitely cost him that time that he needed to beat at least Ghosts here. But yeah, Luke has improved, I saw.
Yeah, he did a second lap on the soft tyres and put it up to third. That's a great effort from Luke.
But his tyres will be dead towards the end of the stint then.
Yeah, it could be potentially short-term gain, long-term pain on that one.
Yeah, but that's quali over, and surprisingly, Ryan is down in 8th. So our championship leader not performing all too well in quali, but we know that he's been quite consistent in the past few rounds, so maybe he can fight back. We've also got our previous 3 race winners, 3 races in a what? Oh, I can't get my words straight. The guy who won the last 3 races in a row, so now I've got it. Max, he's in 5th. That's not too bad, and in real life we saw that P3 is probably a very good starting position for most guys, but that's your grid then. We've got... Oh wait, I remember someone was from Luxembourg and not Netherlands, but I can't remember who it is, and I can't tell the difference between the flags right now. I can't tell which blue is different. Who was it? Who's from Luxembourg? Who's not from the Netherlands?
I'm zooming in on with my eyes on the flags, and I genuinely can't tell a difference.
Simon's Dutch, Cohen's Dutch, Lucas Dutch. Okay, so we've got a Dutch 1, 2, 3. McCrew is also Dutch. We had someone from Luxembourg in here. Whoopsie. We've had someone from Luxembourg in here, didn't we?
Maybe it's one of the ones who's not here tonight. Might be. Is it Loic? Maybe.
Might be.
Because I genuinely don't think. Cause I think for Luxembourg, it's more like a slightly lighter shade of red or an orange rather than.
No,
red
I think it's the blue, isn't it? Isn't it like a slightly lighter blue than from
Welcome
the
to geography lessons with me and Felix.
Yeah, a lot of variety going on in this commentary box. See, if you watch a full commentary, then you might learn a bit as well.
In fact, someone's just commented saying, yes, it is Loic who's from Luxembourg. Thank you for that.
See, we were right.
Yeah.
we had the right thing in mind. And can you confirm, is it the red or is it the blue? I think it was the blue. I think it was a slightly lighter blue. I want to see in the chat now. The chat actually helps us here. Figuring out such a difficult topic. And probably, and definitely, without a doubt, the most important topic right now.
Well, you know, I mean, in our defence, Co-Masters got it wrong, didn't they, with Marcus Armstrong? Yeah. So.
Well, but I gotta say, that's a mistake that is not as easily made as picking a wrong shade of blue or red or whatever it is.
Yeah, I reckon I could tell the difference between the Australia and New Zealand flags. I think there's there's a bigger difference there.
Yeah, it's like a big star missing. Yeah, it's the blue. I was right. Huh. I just googled it.
See, we got there together in the end. I got Loic and you got the blue.
Yeah. See, teamwork in the end gets us to our goal. But yeah, let's go back to racing then, as we've started the formation lap and we can see everyone outside the top 10 has decided to start on their mediums. I'm curious to see if one of those guys outside the top 10 or maybe even inside the top 10 has watched F7 yesterday and thought, you know what, I don't have the best pacer on here. Let's try and do the same as Game Freak did yesterday. Go for the one stop, choose soft medium, take care of the tyres, and then just don't pick up any penalties. Easier said than done, I know, because especially around Mexico, time penalties are so easy to pick up. Trust me, I speak out of experience here. And yeah, I'm very curious. I think we'll see at least one stop here today. I hope.
I'm gonna make a call here, and it's all dependent because, of course, if there's a safety car, I think that kind of forces everyone into 2 stops. But because I don't think they'd want to be on old tyres. But if we have a normal race, I'm gonna say maybe Krypton would be the sort of driver who might go for a 1 stop. That'd be my call.
I would say Vapornuth, just because he couldn't get a lap in, and probably now things, you know, I might as well risk something. But I think
because that was the amazing thing.
Just too aggressive to do that.
That was the amazing thing about Free Gloves as well. He qualified 6, so so he qualified in the top 10. So he's not like he even started on fresh tyres either.
Yeah, like that was really impressive, and for me on track he kind of came out of nowhere, and then I realised, oh, hold on, he's going to the end and he's going to beat me. And in the end he did by just 0.4 of a second, but he did. As I don't know if that's actually the proper lights. I don't think those are. Nope, they are not, and we're waiting for the lights to go out for the drivers now. So a good feature. Now we are off here in Mexico, and it seems to be a solid start from Thyman in first. Cohen slots in behind, and we've got a 3-wide situation in the background for third place. That looks pretty exciting in the background there. Max has already gone up to third. Let's see if Cohen can challenge Thyman coming down into turn 1. No, he can't. Luke tries to gain third place back, and he's gone side by side with Max, who's got the tighter line through turn 2. He gets pushed out wide. He's still alongside Luke, though, and he might want to try and get that third place because he had a good run. He's now going for the inside into turn 4. He's diving it, and they're still side by side. It looks like they are leaving each other enough room, but no, Max is slightly getting forced out wide. Not quite, though. We've got an expected pit stop strategy, and once again Max has to back out of that because he's on the outside line and he just can't make it work.
I just saw like 2 Mercs and a Ferrari going side by side in turn 1 and thought this isn't going to end well, and it's not gone well for Ghost. He's down to 9th, but fair play. In the end, it was all a very clean start to say, but there were so many cars side by side, and the main thing there was Max trying to get past Luke. He hasn't been able to do so, and the top 2 I think are already trying to make a bit of a break for it.
Yeah, in the background we've got Ryan getting 2 spots, which is crucial for him. Obviously he wants to work up his way to the front today. Not willing to lose points in the championship.
No, of course not. I wonder how much of his thinking will be on the championship when it comes to making moves. I don't think he's the most naturally aggressive driver anyway, so I don't think we'll see him sending many moves anyway, but he might play it slightly cautiously in these last 3 races, knowing that he's got such a big margin to protect, and the last thing he can afford is a DNF.
Yeah, we can see leaves flying all over the place, coming down into turn 4 then. And I think Max is willing to get past Luke within the next couple of laps because Luke is outside the DRS window of his teammate Cohen. He's just got back into it right now. Well, as soon as the DRS gets enabled on lap 3, which is not going to be on the main straight because the detection point is in the stadium section, so it's technically the detection points open up on lap 3. So they will have the DRS on the main straight and the second long straight from lap 4 onwards. But Luke has just gone back into the DRS window of Cohen, so that is a good sign for him. And Cohen is struggling to stay within that window of Thyman.
Yeah, it's crucial for Cohen. He can't afford to lose that DRS. And I suppose for those outside the top 10, as long as they can stay in touching distance within the soft tyre runners, it's not too bad.
Sorry to interrupt you, but here comes Ryan, then down the inside. Fan moves to the inside to defend, but he can't defend him quite. And yes, Ryan has gone up into 5th place. A good start from our championship leader, and we've got the first penalty on lap 3. And now I regret that I didn't bet on the first lap to get a penalty on, because I would have set lap 3. But no one's going to believe me now because it's already happened.
You'll tell us anything.
Yeah, I was about to say, but then I wanted to talk about the race a bit more. We've talked enough about geography and different topics, so I wanted to focus on the race this time.
Furhan's struggling again. He's going to come under threat from Jan here if he's not careful. And what I noticed against Ryan, certainly from what I saw, is that he did defend, but he almost left it too late. Like he just was caught a bit unawares. So he's going to need to keep his wits about him here, otherwise he could lose yet another position to Jan. And he looks like the one driver here who might be struggling. Having said that, Cohen has lost the DRS to Feynman, which is a big blow for him.
Yeah, but it definitely helps Luke to stay within that DRS window of his teammate and to stay ahead of Max, because he doesn't have that advantage of the driver not having any DRS. But yeah, I agree with you. Fairhunt does look like he's lost a bit of momentum or something. That might have been a warning for Jan there. And Jan is really close to the rear end of Fairhunt this time. Fairhunt tries to defend the inside line. He gives him the room on the outside. Jan is going to have the outside line. Slight contact made into the braking zone there. And a lock up from Fairhunt, but it's not enough to put the Red Bull off. Or is it? He loses the rear end completely and nearly takes out the Ferrari with him. He manages to keep it on the road. Good reactions by Fairhunt there, who manages to avoid the Red Bull, who is like half spun ahead of him. And that was some really good reaction times there from Fairhunt, and he gets his spot back because of that.
see that so often. A driver loses the back end of a car and there's nowhere for the other driver to go. Furhan did remarkably well to avoid a crash there, and but it has of course meant that the guys in front have pulled away, and that means that all three championship contenders are right together in third, fourth and fifth. And I wonder if there's a bit of Alfa Romeo tactics going on here, because obviously we know Luke did an extra lap in qualifying on his softs, so maybe he needs a DRS of Cohen, just if anything, to defend against the guys behind him. As Jan is going to try and make the move past Furhan, will it be a bit smoother for him this time around? Yes, it will. He gets a place into P6, and this time no sideways action, and I think he's got that move pretty sewn up. And with the DRS, of course, down the next DRS straight, there's nothing really Furhan can do, and he's just starting to fall backwards ever so slightly, and McCrew may fancy his chances this lap or maybe next lap.
Yeah, it was a pretty easy move. If the driver ahead hasn't got any help with DRS, that long straight is really suffering in terms of straight line speed, and it doesn't really help you at all. And that's why Jan made an easy move in the end as he picks up his first penalty, probably because with the clean air you've got a lot less understeer, and probably he wasn't used to that. And Kryptonite is really close to the rear end of Ghost, and we can definitely see that those soft tyres are just a lot quicker than those mediums at the minute, because the gap between the last soft runner and the first medium runner is already 2 seconds. So yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you in quali already, that the softs are just a lot quicker than the mediums around here. And I've noticed Max has come closer to Luke again.
Yeah, Luke's getting closer to Cohen for good measure, and a bit surprised by that, to be honest. But Feynman at the moment's looking pretty unstoppable, and I have to say, big shout out to Feynman. He only joined midway through the season as a reserve, but he's fourth in the championship. I mean, I haven't looked across all tiers. I'm not entirely sure of this, but I would hazard a guess that he might be the highest placed reserve in any championship standings.
Probably. I think it's only a matter of time until he actually gets his full-time seat, because he's there pretty much every week since he's joined, and it's good to have some reliable reserves in any division, and Feynman is definitely one of the more talented reserves that we've got in PSGL.
Yeah, no question. Not only is he coming and being reliable, he's been fighting for wins, podiums, and you can see here he's just got, at the moment anyway, the measure of his competition. But of course we are early days yet, and often on this game I seem to find certain drivers will respond differently to each set of tyres, so you never know. He might have the advantage now, but he might put the mediums on and not have that same level of grip that he was used to, and may struggle more.
Let's look at Kryptonite here. He's pretty close to the rear end of that Mercedes car of Ghost ahead of him, but it looks like Ghost has got a lot more straight line speed than him, and he might actually try to challenge McCrew here coming down into turn 1 as McCrew locks up the inside front, goes a bit deep. That might compromise his run now through turns 1, 2 and 3 as Ghost completely loses the rear end, nearly spins into the wall because of that, and that gives Kryptonite the easy possibility of passing him on the straight. Not really much he needed to do there, Kryptonite, and that was a pretty easy pass, and he says thank you very much, I'll just take that P9 from you. And yeah, that's just so easy to do around here. Just slightly go on the power too early. Just, it doesn't have to be way too early, just slightly too early, and you'll just lose the rear end. And that's what just happened to Ghost. But I gotta say, well held. Some drivers would have put the car in the wall there.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's a bit of frustration creeping in from Ghost's point of view, because he qualified up in 4th, but he didn't have the start he would have wanted, and he started as Luke pits, and that's not too much of a surprise, because of course he did do that extra lap in qualifying. Ryan's also in, so people looking to make their first stops, and I think it's safe to say that these two are definitely not going for a one-stop.
Yeah, let's see if Maxwell could get into that 1 second window on this lap then. Let's see if he's actually got that much more pace, but I'm pretty sure that the undercut is going to work beautifully for Luke then, because the undercut is quite powerful. But look at how close Ryan is compared to Luke right now.
It's not a bad idea for these two though to maybe do a couple more laps, Cohen and Max, because as you can see, the Jan has sort of drifted away, and it's kind of been split into 2 groups now. So they've got that little bit of leeway to stay out a lap or 2 extra. They may lose the positions, of course, to Ryan, and Luke, but you know they've got a chance to then come back at them later on because of that gap further behind. So it'll be interesting to see how Cohen and Max respond on this lap, and if they immediately decide to pit and cover them.
Did I miss something, or how did Ryan now get so close to Luke during the pit stops?
That is a bit strange because there was obviously Max between them before,
Yeah.
and all the top three are straight in the pits. So they responded straight away.
Maybe he had some issues coming out of his pit box or something, which cost him in the end. But we'll have to wait and see where he comes out, and in comparison to Max, or the other way around rather, as Luke flies past the pit lane just now. And can he get past his teammate? Yes, he can. And like I said, that undercut worked beautifully. Speaking of undercut worked beautifully, look at Ryan. He's trying to go down the inside of the other Alfa Romeo here, as he's obviously on cold tyres, but Luke did not manage to get that move done, and Cohen knew he needed to stay ahead here in order to help his teammate out. But that was that was a strong undercut, especially from Ryan.
Max again, Ryan, sorry. I can't help feeling that the championship came into his thought process there, because he looked like he was pretty much alongside, and then he wasn't very brave on the brakes there. I just wonder if he thought, you know, I'm not willing to take a risk here. He probably thinks the Alfa Romeos will be working together to some extent, and it, you know, for him it's maybe better to just stay behind at this stage of the race. With how close this group of cars is, the key here for these guys could potentially be just to avoid penalties. And it's interestingly I called Krypton to make a one stop, because he's now the only guy left out there still on the softs he started on.
And interesting to see now what the fight in between Max and Ryan is going to be like, if there is actually a fight between them. But it looks like we're not far away from one, as Cohen and Luke switch back positions. So it's probably only fair for both of them, as obviously Luke and Max are equal on points in the championship at the minute due to the 3 wins in a row that Max has had. And right now we've got all 3 championship contenders in between P9 and P11.
I can tell you that Jan did not have a fun time out of the pits on his fresh tyres, because he got a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits.
Oh.
Must have done something pretty severe to get 5 seconds.
And yeah, he'll have to serve that as well. Don't know if that was a correct penalty, but look at the amount of ERS that Max has got. He's managing it quite well, especially in comparison to Ryan at the minute. Luke has got quite a lot of ERS, so has Cohen. So do you think that might be a tactic from the Alfa Romeo drivers to just let Cohen go out ahead again, because he didn't get the undercut? Luke needed the undercut in order to stay ahead of Max, and now Luke can defend this position from Ryan due to the DRS he's got.
It's definitely a possibility. I think the one driver who it affects most, though, I mean, obviously Ryan won't be happy to see Luke in front of him, but I think Max is the one who really needs to try and get a move on here. But it's so difficult when you're at the back of a DRS train, because you're almost relying on a mistake from the car ahead of you to really have a chance to pass, and maybe that's why he's saving his ERS. He's hoping that maybe the guys in front use up all of theirs, and he can take advantage at some point if a small mistake is made. But yeah, there's definitely some teamwork going on between the Alfa Romeo pair, and so far at least it's working. But the one driver who's benefiting from it all is Fireman, who just continues to do his own thing a couple of seconds up the road, and right now everything's looking pretty good for him.
Yeah, I think he's basically just controlling the race at the minute, not pushing on to the max, because he just doesn't need to in order to stay ahead. He's got a comfortable lead at the moment, and yeah, he's using that. And just a quick side note, we've got the same fight still going on between Fairhan, McCrew and Kryptonite, so it's nice to see that the fight still remain the same after the pit stops.
Yeah, you can see just how much time they lost. Vapornoof's in the pits, which is, I would say, quite an early stop to make on medium tyres, but
yeah, to do.
Nevertheless,
he's probably not going for 2 soft stints, I reckon, then, because to do 25 laps on 2 sets of softs around here is quite challenging, I'd call it. But it's not impossible. We saw it from 3 gloves yesterday. But
And I believe, if my eyes have not mistaken me, that McCrew and Furhan have swapped places. So McCrew,
oh yeah,
somewhere at least, I didn't catch it, but McCrew has got past Furhan. But I won't be surprised if that battle rumble's on, to be honest.
I tell you what, I think Max has got a lot more pace than those guys ahead because he's not using any ERS, sorry. But he's still the closest one to the driver ahead out of this entire train. So I think if Max would be in clean air, then he'd be the quickest man out of them all. I think he's got the pace for P2 here today, but like you've mentioned, it's just so difficult to pass in a DRS train.
I wonder if for the second sort of set of stops he might try something a bit different, either pit really early or pit later potentially, because he might need to try something different here to get past them all, as his teammate does the fastest lap of the race. So McCrew's on the march as he looks to close down Jan, but Max looks quick right now, but like you say, he's got nowhere really to go with it right now with those 3 in front of him. And it'd be interesting to see. We don't know for sure, but maybe he could take the fight to 5 and if he had clear air in front of him. But right now he's a bit caught. And look at that 100% ERS. You don't see that often on lap 13 of a race.
I think if we fancy some overtakes, we should switch on to Thymony because he's coming up to the guys who haven't pitted yet. And as the comfortable race leader, I reckon he's going to make some overtakes in there. And we remember, I think it was Monaco, where he made so many incredible overtakes. Was it Monaco? I think it was.
Yes, I believe so. He was definitely. We got a yellow flag.
Oh, that's McCrew.
I'm not going to say anything. I may have said that he was on the march a minute ago. I'm probably going to get a DM after that, but Feynman's passed Simon down the pit straight, and with a minimum of us, and the next driver is his teammate. But effectively, of course, because Feynman's a reserve, he's not his teammate in effect, so he may not be so keen to get out of the way as Ghost retires, and that really, after such a good qualifying, his race just never really went his way.
Yeah, it's always sad to see. It's interesting to see that Cohen is the only one outside the net top 5 who's got a penalty so far. So, yeah, impressive stuff on all the others. Lap 14 and not a single pen from the first 5 drivers.
Yeah, I'm half tempted to have a little look, see if anyone's got no warnings as well.
And that might be team orders. Yes, it is. Dan makes way for his teammate. Very kind and probably the smartest thing he could have done in order not to interrupt that championship fight here for Thymon. As Thymon is probably still willing to take... Can he still take P2? I think he can, can't he?
Yeah, definitely. He's only, I believe, 14 points behind. So, yeah, with a good run of results, he can definitely still get P2 in the championship. I just had a quick look at, in terms of like warnings and stuff. The only driver I can see that has no warnings as of yet, just adding to the thought process that he's a danger man here, Max has no warnings. So, and I believe, well, Cohen's got a penalty now, and I believe Luke and Ryan are 1 warning away from a penalty. So Max is in a good spot here.
Max is in a good spot as he locks up and nearly hits the car in front, which is Ryan. That would have been quite some controversy, but luckily he managed to avoid him. By
I'm
the
not
way,
gonna lie, if I'd have said that about Max and then that had happened, I'd have not spoken for the rest of the stream.
you would have just left the party, shut down PS4 and apologised for everything.
Yeah, I'm already preparing myself for a McCrew DM at the end of this, so...
But I just wanted to make a quick note for everyone who doesn't know. The Mercedes, obviously black from last season, as we all know. And it seems like it's going to stay black for 2021, as they've released a sneak peek. And it looked like a black car with red star for, obviously, in memory of Niki Lauda. who would have had his 72nd birthday actually today. So yeah, obviously a legend of the motorsport, and it's nice to see that red star still being on the car for him, and looks like we're going to have another year of a beautiful looking black Mercedes.
I definitely prefer the black Mercedes livery. It looks really nice, especially with the sort of light green stripe that it's got on it as well. I think it really blends well, much nicer than the silver in my personal opinion. But yeah, it's interesting times this race. Feynman's actually extended his lead, which he'll be relieved about, I suppose, considering he was threading his way through traffic. And these three just cannot, these four, sorry, can't be separated at the moment. But as I mentioned, Max is in a good spot with penalties, and that's going to really, that could serve him well, because I highly doubt that Luke and Ryan can go the rest of his race without getting another warning.
Yeah, it's quite a long way still to go, and I remember I didn't have many penalties like at the halfway point of the race, but then suddenly I just started to cut every single corner on the track, and in the end I came across the line with 12 seconds of penalties. But I'm not the standard, because we're here in a fourth, 3 divisions further up than I am, and you can see in terms of lap times and the quality of driving that those guys are a lot better than I am, and I think then you and me combined are. And yeah, that might have been Max's first warning. I want to check that. That looked quite... it says invalidated lap time. Is that a warning then? Might be.
It might be. I mean, it's pretty... Invalidated lap time's a pretty pointless penalty in a race, but there we go. Vaporduper's passed Kryptonite for 7th, but of course, he's gone for the slightly different strategy. He pitted quite early from mediums to softs. He's actually going pretty well at the moment, but of course, it's very likely he's going to have to run mediums at the end, which I wouldn't say 2 medium stints is the optimum strategy, but right now he's doing pretty well, up in 7th place, but yeah, we'll see how that pans out for him later on. Maybe Kryptonite and Furhan will come back at him.
Just want to say that Brad has already got 9 seconds, so he's looking to beat my record of 12 yesterday.
And Ryan's just got his first penalty.
Yeah, and Max will love to see that. And to make it even better for him, Ryan has not had the best run out of the last corner. This might be Max's best chance to actually go for a move, but he sticks out of overtake. That's a risk. Feynman gets a pen. Doesn't matter all too much, to be honest. That's a high risk. If I would have been Max, and I knew that Ryan is leading the championship, just made a big mistake, and that is the first chance he's had in the entirety of that second stint. Oh, as he nearly hits him. Oh my goodness. And I would have went for that, because we saw earlier on that Ryan was just a bit careful in that fight with with Colin, sorry. And he might think of the championship a bit more than Max does, because Ryan's got everything to lose while Max is the hunter. So Max needs to be aggressive, but he wasn't as aggressive as I hoped him to be. So if he wants to get past Ryan at some point in this race, he should use opportunities like that when they open up. And yeah, that's 12 seconds for Brett.
We're only a half distance as well. That could be a lot of penalties can be end of the race for Brett. Yeah, I'm very surprised, like you, Max wasn't more aggressive there, but maybe he's got something else in mind. He's still got tons of ERS available to him, because he didn't use that much with that attack on Ryan. I think if he had used more, he could have got past, but yeah, still keeping it very safe right now. Maybe thinking there's a long way to go, plenty of things can happen, but yeah, I mean, he went from not being aggressive enough to nearly running into the back of him, so it could have gone very wrong for Max in that moment, but right now he's staying behind him, and there's no way through really for any of his group of cars at the moment. I get the sense that Luke's not trying to get in a battle with Cohen, they're sort of just working together at this point.
Yeah, Cohen obviously will lose the spot to Luke due to the penalties got and probably to Max as well. So Luke is basically just trying to use the DRS of his teammate, and that's a smart tactic from them. But like, maybe Max is just relying on getting the plays due to penalties from Ryan, but if I was him, I wouldn't want Luke to be ahead of me in the championship. I would have been too eager to at least then be second in the standings and gain 2 more points on the championship leader.
Yeah, and I think as well, certainly, I would just think, let's just get as high up on the track as I can, and then worry about penalties later. But Max is just playing the safe game right now. One move that could potentially happen is Vapornoof on Jan. Vapornoof making good progress on the soft tyres. He nearly runs into the back of Jan. I actually think he did hit the back of the Red Bull driver a bit, and I think he backed off a bit so he didn't gain any advantage from that, which is fair racing. But yeah, maybe just getting caught up how much extra grip he had there into turn 1.
But it looks like it feels like nobody really wants to go for a move, because obviously it doesn't make much sense for Ryan, because he's not been close enough to make a move on Luke so far, and obviously he's the one that's got a lot more to lose than all the others. And yeah, for him it doesn't make much sense because he's got penalties anyway, or at least 1 penalty. So, but for Max, I don't know, he can't lose any places if he can't make the overtake work. If he spins, obviously he's going to lose places, but if he just can't get the move done, he won't lose anything. He'll just stay in 5th and then catch back up again.
Yeah, he's not under any threat from behind, like you say, like with Ryan, of course. If he goes on the attack, he may lose a place. But for Max, there's no real worry about that, and Brett has decided, rather than get another 12 seconds worth of penalties, he's going to retire.
That's a bit sad. Now I can't even see how many penalties there were in the end. He's picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane for a good measure in the end. So on paper he's got more than I did yesterday, so I'm happy already.
Well, Dan, I was about to say Dan might be one driver to look out for because he's on hards and may go to the end, but of course, right on cue he gets a penalty because I am the biggest curse imaginable, it seems, today.
Yeah.
And we got yellow flag in set to
just
1.
Just don't talk about specific drivers, okay? Let's put it that way. Let's not risk that once again, because you still owe McCrew a big apology after the race.
I'll say I hope he doesn't watch the stream back. I'm fairly sure he commented on F7 yesterday, so I'm fairly certain he will watch the stream back on that one. Vapornoof got past Jan for 6th place now, and he's running a pretty solid race right now, but it won't be too long, I don't think, because he's in the pits again. Potential for a set of mediums, unless he's thinking of doing another soft tyre stint, which he could potentially stretch out and do, but it might not be in the best state with the soft tyres come the end.
Speaking of lap 22 now, we are on lap 22, I don't know why I said speaking of. We're on lap 22 now, and we're getting closer and closer to the last pit window, which is going to be for softs on most guys. So, what do you think? What do you reckon? When's the first, pit stop got to be? And that was a mistake from Ryan, and out of nowhere, he has lost P4. That's incredible.
I'm just going to give Max all the credit and say he's a psychic and he knew that was going to happen, so he held back. And yeah, Max all too happy to accept my invitation and get P4, and now we'll see what he can do against the Alfa Romeos. I actually think now these two might be a little bit more worried, because I sense they'll probably know and Max will be more open to doing an overtake.
That felt like a Nico Rosberg moment in 2015 in USA, when suddenly Hamilton went past Rosberg and the commentators were like, wait, what happened? And I was just looking at the broadcast camera on Max, and then suddenly I see the Mercedes is next to the racing line, not where he was supposed to be, on the exit of the corner, and slow. So Max just went past him, so I reckon Ryan has just lost the rear end and then had to make way for him. And that, yeah, so it looks like the patience that Max has showed has worked out in the end. And I think he's willing to move into P3, because then he knows he has definitely got P2 in the back if he stays within 3 seconds of Cone.
Yeah, it's all looking very nice at the moment for Max. And tell you what, it was a great fight going on for P12. Dan and McCrew were absolutely going at it, and there was nearly more contact between them there as Dan took P12 off McCrew. fighting for last place on the track at the moment, but they're still keenly fighting over it, and you can see already, there's no doubt about it, Max has got a lot of pace because he's straight onto the back of Luke and looking like he might be in a position to take third place here, but it all depends on how much overtake he's willing to use. And he's straight in the overtake.
He's got a lot more. He's got a lot more left to play with, and Luke is not really using it.
And he's using a lot of it.
Yeah, he might want to push Luke into an awkward situation that he maybe has to make a move on his teammate, which he doesn't really want to. That was some slight contact, but I don't think there was any damage. But do you know what I mean? That he forces Luke into using so much overtake on the straight that he basically has to make a move on his teammate, which he doesn't even want to. And that might compromise his run then, because the two Alfa Romeos then need to work out who's going to let who pass, and then that might give Max a chance. But that's a very tactical game, and I think if you're sitting in that cockpit right now, driving that car, I don't think you have such big tactics coming into mind. So, that was a mistake from Max, and you saw how much he lifted off there, just not to get a warning, so he's very careful with that.
I have to say, I saw a massive moment there. Vapor Nooth let Kryptonite past him, and I think Kryptonite was so shocked that he'd done that, but he completely forgot to brake on time, and missed his braking spot so much, he ran wide and nearly hit the back of Jan in the process. But he thankfully got away with it, as Ryan now pits. So he's going for the undercut here, so will this may force the three ahead of him into action, but of course, the two Alfa Romeos can't pit on the same lap.
Oh, yeah. If I was Max, I would pit on this lap, because it's definitely going to undercut one of them. And you basically need to respond to Ryan, who's going to have the DRS as well, because he was within that 1 second of Max on the detection point. So the Alfa Romeos need to work it out now, and I think the smartest thing to do now would be to let Luke pit first. Not only because he's on 16 lap old tyres, so 1 lap older than his teammates, but Luke has got no penalties, and Cohen's going to lose this spot anyway. So basically has to be Luke pitting, doesn't it? Oh yeah, Max has to lift off again.
Yeah, I don't see how it doesn't make any sense for Cohen to pit from any perspective here ahead of Luke. And I've got to be honest, I don't know if it's through design, I don't know if it's on purpose or if it's just maybe a lack of pace in his middle stim, but there's no doubt about it, Cohen pits. So that's really messed up Luke tremendously there.
I almost felt like a driver here. I was on the edge of my seat when Max entered the pit lane, as he had a double lock up there, and I thought he might speed, and I was very scared for him. Doesn't get held up. Let's see where Ryan is in comparison to to Max right now, and he's going to jump both of them. That's a massive undercut. Look at that.
And I wonder if Max might fancy his chances here. He's maybe caught Cohen slightly napping here, and he's going to go down the inside into turn 1, and he's got the move done, so Cohen's going to try and fight back. He ran a bit deep into turn 1, did Max, but he'll have the DRS once again. So Max took an advantage there of Cohen, and I'll tell you what, that's not worked out at all well for either Alfa Romeo and Luke. Surely he's going to rejoin behind all three of them.
Yeah, you know what my thinking was? They might have just decided to let Luke stay out just because Luke has got the DRS, and he might not lose as much as Cohen would have, you know, without any help of DRS, as Cohen picks up another penalty, and that's my point basically gone, because yeah, now he's got 2 penalties anyway, and he's out of the fight with Ryan as well. So Max now in a very, very good position to beat both of his championship rivals in this race.
And a quick update as well, McCrew is retired from the race and he's preparing the pitch box as he tries to enter into the commentary box. I also pits, so that ruins my ideology that he was going to go for a 1-stop. Luke rejoins, and as predicted. I don't understand.
More than 1.5 seconds.
I just don't understand that. He had older tyres. Obviously, he's in the championship fight, Cohen isn't. They've clearly been working together this race because they've swapped positions a few times and clearly not battled that much. So, yeah, I'm a bit puzzled by that, me, and I don't think that's helped Luke out at all. And Cohen's now got 2 penalties in a sense, so really, they've got the Alfa Romeo drivers now the wrong way round.
Yeah, and it's especially like Luke hasn't got any penalties. He would have been the one fighting for P2 in the end here, as Cohen has probably just got to cruise on to P4 then in the end when they all pass Dan. So I don't really get it. I just can't work it out quite, and you can see Max is losing massive amounts of time behind Dan right now. He was on all hards. Oh yeah, look at that. Let's even brake before the braking zone. Oh, look at that. Look at the exit. Look at that grip difference out of the last corner. And he doesn't really want to use his ERS. I can understand that. So he just uses his DRS then when it gets enabled. And Cohen is going to fly past him as well. Cohen is on 0% of ERS and he brakes late. And nearly hits the back of Max. That would have been controversial. But, oh, that was quite lucky from Cohen, gotta say.
That was super close, and yeah, Max's heart may have been in his mouth there when he saw the player marker just jump to the left there, but he's thankfully they got through it unscathed, and all Max has to do now is avoid a penalty and stay pretty close to Ryan. And he's looking at P2 here and clawing back a few points on Ryan, although it has to be said he probably would have, if he has got championship aspirations, he probably was hoping to be a bit more than just 1 car ahead of Ryan.
Yeah, I can tell you that Thimon's got 4 warnings so far, so penalty, and after that he's had 1 warning. So I kind of doubt that he will get another penalty in those last remaining 8 laps when he crosses the line. But if he does, then maybe Max wants to try and get the win, but I don't think that's gonna happen if I'm honest, because Thymon, he has to just be cruising at the moment. Probably all race long, because he's just dominating. I mean, 7.1 seconds in between him and P2. And probably on the second DRS straight, Max is going to fly past Ryan here as they come around turns 2 and 3. That looked like an okay run. If he now wants to use his overtake, which he doesn't. Interesting. Okay, so he's just patient, waiting for another lap.
I have got some good news for Alfa Romeo, as it stands, with Ghost unfortunately not scoring tonight. Alfa coming into this were 4 points behind Mercedes for the top of the Constructors, and they will now leapfrog Mercedes. Question on strategy, but they will at least go to the top of the Constructors. And who knows, that
positive.
Yeah, that's... And I will say as well, also as it stands, it will be just the top 4, I believe, that can still win the championship, and that does include Feynman, who would, as it stands, I believe, move to about 28, 27 points behind Ryan, which, considering he only joined halfway through the season as a reserve, is a stunning effort.
Yeah, but he has to rely on a big mistake from Ryan in at least
Max.
one of the last 2 races. But yeah, Max then into P2, very easy pass. DRS enabled, no DRS for Ryan, and up into P2 he goes, which he already had secured due to the penalties previously, but now he's got it on track as well. That's always a nicer feeling than just getting a position due to a penalty in the end. Well, that's probably what's going to happen to Luke. Sorry, Luke is probably... could be close. At the minute it could be close in between Luke and Ryan, but I could see Ryan's tyres dying off towards the end a little bit.
One bit of teamwork that could go on here is if Cohen starts to battle with Ryan, it will bring Luke right into it, and that will only help him. So, could be a bit of team orders here for Cohen to just go after Ryan and make a battle out of it.
I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Fastest lap, obviously. Oh my goodness! If you just want to take a look at the fastest lap, Jake, I think that sums up the dominance tonight quite well. I mean, the only driver to be inside the 14s, and then with a 14.7, and the next fastest lap time is a 15.3 from Vapornuth, and that is absolutely astonishing.
I think the only maybe Max could have challenged if he'd have been up there, but I think even then, I think Feynman just had that bit too much pace. But you can see now Max is past Ryan. He was starting to pull away, but it's been paid back ever so slightly. And it's 2 seconds between Ryan and Luke, so if Luke can avoid picking up a penalty in his closing stages, he may just finish ahead of Ryan, which will be not only good for him, it'll also be good for Max, because it'll mean, I think he would take 4 points out of Ryan's championship lead, reducing it to 16 points, which, with 2 races to go, isn't unassailable.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but I don't think it's going to be easy, especially with Ryan's confidence and this calm driving style. We saw him doing some smart decisions today at many points in the race, you know, just backing out here and there, thinking about the championship, not risking too much, and knowing what he has to do. And I think his consistency is going to make it very hard for the others to actually fight for it. But who knows? They could always be a lap 1 crash or something. As Kryptonite has just gone past Dan, who is now definitely dropping down the order on his old hard tyres. Ryan's just got another pen, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. Apologies about that. If you did ask me something, I had to go away from my headset for about 10 seconds.
Okay, that might make things now interesting, because maybe Cohen is now motivated to actually go for a move on Ryan. Because why not?
And it's he's got 7 seconds over Kryptonite as well, so if we do start battling, Kryptonite could come into the thinking against Ryan too.
I remember Ryan's got older tyres as well. 2 lap older tyres than Luke, and Kryptonite 1 lap older tyres than Cohen. And now I wouldn't see a reason for the Alfa Romeos to swap position, because Luke is not going to challenge Ryan, not going to challenge Max, I'm pretty sure. And he's definitely going to get P3 from Ryan and Cohen. So they might just let Cohen go flat out and try and pass Ryan.
Well, I've got one school of thought for you as well. Would Max potentially look at the amount of penalties that Ryan has and maybe thinking about bunching him up a bit?
I think bunching him up wouldn't be the smartest thing to do, if I'm honest. I think it would have been smarter to just try and pull away, to then get him out of the DRS window, to then leave him vulnerable for P4 and P5. So if my dog is hearable in the background, he's just barking all over the place right now. He's getting excited over the finale of this race. But yeah, that's the thing now. He could potentially try and bunch him up, but I think it would definitely be smarter for him to just try and get him out of that DRS window, which isn't going to be too easy because they've got equal amounts of ERS left.
Yeah, this is intriguing now. I think there's going to be some tactics at play, and it'll be interesting to see what these guys go with. Furhan just picked up a penalty, and I have to say, what's happened to his race? He was running very firmly inside the points at one stage. I'm kind of slipped underneath my radar, but to see him in last place now, I did not expect that.
Cohen's close.
Yeah, this could be an opportunity for Cohen for sure. He's not got much ERS and he's not using overtake. And of course, Ryan is still getting the DRS off Max, so...
But he surely doesn't want to go for a move. Oh my goodness, that was close. Cohen caught up so much in that braking zone, and I don't think that was intentional from him. But I don't think Ryan wants to pass Max, because it's no use and it's just an unnecessary risk. And he went in the slipstream, and that's going to cost him time now, that attempt.
I don't think Max is going as quickly as he could do here. And I tell you what...
Cohen hit him.
Yep, as old Furhan is going slowly. I don't know what's happening there, but yeah, I don't think Max is going at the speed he could do, because the gap is definitely coming down between Ryan and Kryptonite, and as it stands, Ryan would lose another place to Krypton.
Oh yeah, he would. Kryptonite. Oh my, he's like a ninja. He's like, I didn't notice him once this race, except from the one time you mentioned it pretty quickly. And I think maybe Max has got an engineer in this race, was telling him, you know what, if you back up Ryan right now, he's not only going to lose the spot to Kryptonite, but he might also lose the spot to Cohen.
Alfa Romeo's
never
have
mind.
round.
What? Why? Huh? What?
Well, begs the question, why didn't they do that for the final set of pit stops 10 laps ago?
But I think now it's no use at all. Maybe now Luke thinks, alright, Max is slow, but I'm pretty sure Max is just backing him up like Hamilton did to Rosberg in 2016. Completely legitimate, completely understandable, and I would do the same if I was Max. But why? Cohen would have had a chance to pass Ryan, and surely Luke knows that he needs to gain more points on Ryan as Ryan goes completely wide. Probably picked up another warning there. But why? Now Cohen hasn't got the chance, and Max makes a huge mistake coming into the safety section.
Yeah, I was just about to say, is Max picking up the pace now he's seen Luke on the horizon? Because he's just all of a sudden started to up the pace again there, and I wonder if it's because he's seen Luke there with no penalties and realises he can't afford to let Luke have an attack on him, so...
Oh, look at Ryan. Ryan is using his ERS. Seems like he is willing to go for a move on Max. He's gone for the outside, coming down into turn 1. That's a risk for the championship leader. And he backs out, but he might have compromised his run enough to then make a move coming down into turn 4. And yes, he is pretty close. He is using his ERS. Let's see. Same for Max. And it looks like it's not going to be enough for Ryan to get past him just now. But I'm still trying to figure out why the Alpha switched.
Your guess is as good as mine, but yeah, as it stands, because of that, Kryptonite's going to get 4th place out of this race, and Ryan's going to drop down to 5th. Meanwhile, Fireman's probably wondering what the fuss is about out front.
Yeah, and we are gonna go onto his camera, and he rounds the final corner. Dominant drive from Thyman, and a well-deserved victory. Let's see if something happens in the background. And yes, there's a... Oh, I thought there was a move from Luke. He was so close in the hairpin, and I thought he might have gone for it. But that would have been unnecessary, because he's going to pass him on penalties anyway. So Ryan's going to come home in 5th then, because Kryptonite, like a ninja, not visible on screen once this race, I think. But he takes P4 with a very, very good drive from 10th, I think. And Dan's going to lose the final points position. So Byman's going to take that final point then. So that one stop hasn't worked out for him. But Alphas, I don't really get. I don't really get it if I'm honest. I don't really get why you switched at the point in time when you did switch, because that wouldn't be like, I would have understood if Luke got the undercut. Would have had the first pit stop, but I don't understand why they swapped at the end, because obviously if Luke would have made a move on Ryan, that would have been no use. But you know, Cohen could have maybe went. Nah, I don't know.
And quickly going through my maths, obviously this is open to any steward's findings, of course, but Ryan will have a 14-point lead over Max, a 16-point lead over Luke, and amazingly enough, a 23-point lead over Fireman. So it's really now between those 4, but Ryan's lead has definitely been cut into in this race, and there was definitely, I think, there's no doubt in my mind that Max played on the penalties that Ryan had and tried to make sure that he lost as many positions as possible. All within the rules, of course, and don't blame him for doing it. In fact, I think it's a perfect thing to do. And it just shows, by staying clear of penalties, it really helped out Max, Luke and Kryptonite here tonight.
To be fair, it is very impressive to not get a single penalty around 36 laps of this circuit here in Mexico. And that's your provisional result of round 10 here for you. Diamond takes the win in a dominant fashion. Didn't pick up the fastest lap though, only just missed out due to...
Yep, 24 points, scrap that. I assumed he got fastest lap, but I have to say, Furham would have pitted towards the end and put on fresh softs, and he already just beat Fireman's time.
Yeah, that's quite impressive from Thyman, and he definitely showed that if he would have started this season at the point where everyone else did, he definitely would have been in that championship fight, and probably he still is, but definitely further up in terms of points. And yeah, he's probably the best reserve of the entirety of PSGL in this season. Maybe not in terms of raw pace, but in the division. I mean, obviously an F1 reserve is probably
Yeah, he
still
missed
a bit quicker.
he missed the first 3 races, and then he wasn't able to compete in Monza because there were no spaces. So yeah, he missed 4 out of 10 races, and to be still in championship contention is quite amazing. And to be honest, I know it's boring going for the winner, but he has to be driver of the day, surely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Max would have deserved the driver of the day any other race as well, but Thyman was just so dominant. It's more like a boring pick because obviously it's the pole sitter, it's the race winner. But like, if you drive that dominantly over the entirety of a race, pick up fastest, not quite fastest lap, but only just get beaten by someone who's just put on a fresh set of softs with a nearly empty tank. Yeah, that's very impressive, and yeah, gotta say, still fair play to Max as well, who went from P5 up to P2 in the end, and did a very good drive, very calm as well, and in the end he gained some points on his championship rival. So that's a good day in the office for him as well, and I think it's 4 points gained on Ryan, isn't it? No, actually
Yeah,
6, isn't it? 6?
Yeah, Max has gained 6, Luke has gained 4, if my maths is correct, because, yeah, 12 points for second and 6 points for fifth. And
Yeah,
then obviously
so
10 for Luke.
now only 14 points away from the championship leader, with 2 races to go. It's difficult, but it's not impossible.
No, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week. Abu Dhabi could be a championship decider, or it could really close things up for the finale. I mean, obviously as a commentator, as a neutral, I suppose, in that aspect, I think we both want it to go to the final race.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would love to have a championship decider around Japan, especially with that circuit. I mean, it's just a beautiful circuit, and yeah, it's a very historical final race as well. We've seen quite a few championship deciders around there, but yeah, Max in very good shape as well. 4 races in a row, 4 podiums, 3 race wins, 1 second place. I think he can't complain all too much.
No, I mean, one final stat from me, he's picked up 60 points from the last 4 races. In the previous 6, he picked up 14.
Quite a step up there from his first half of the season. So, yeah. But the question is that enough towards the end of the race, or will that first half of the season, yeah, have his can't find the word, impact. Sorry, impact on the championship standings in the end, and yeah, he will really regret some of the races he's had in the first half if he doesn't win that championship. But it's still all to play for. Only 14 points in between P1 and P2, and 16 points in between P1 and P3 in the championship. And with 2 races to go, there's still a lot to play for. Just imagine one retirement from Ryan, and yeah, suddenly we've got such a close championship fight. But we'll have to find out next week when we head to Abu Dhabi. We could see a championship decider there, but we could also see the championship becoming even closer. So make sure to tune in next week once again. I'd like to thank everyone for watching tonight. I'm glad I was back here today after a 2-week break for me. And Jake, was a pleasure to commentate with you once again.
As always, I look forward to next week.
Alright, with that being said and done, make sure to check out the other streams. Everyone is live right now. And yeah, make sure to tune in next week, Monday, 7 PM UK time, when we head to Abu Dhabi for the second to last round of the season. With that being said, goodbye and take care.